PFF TV, Solomon Wilcots, Steve Palazzolo here to talk about Mathew Stafford and what we could expect from him in 2019. They used a first-round pick on TJ Hockenson, but Mathew Stafford hasn't been so great at getting the ball to these tight ends, and boy, the Detroit Lions have really tried to help him.
They have. They've tried to get him a first-round tight end multiple times now. Brandon Pettigrew, we've seen Eric Ebron. We'll see what happens now with Hockenson, but I think the key now for the Detroit offense is to just get as many weapons around Stafford as possible. We saw a big drop-off last year when they got rid of Golden Tate. That was kind of his binky, so to speak, the guy that he loved throwing to in the slot. So with Hockenson, who does bring a lot to the table, he can stretch the seam, he can work the short stuff, probably the best route-running tight end in the draft, best run blocker, best all-around tight end in the draft. So that should help, but it's a story that we've seen before with Stafford trying to get him that middle of the field option.
Yeah, and we look at the PFF grade in terms of targeting tight ends, 34th among NFL quarterbacks last year with a grade of 88.5. Is this about just the fact that he's not looking for the tight ends, but even when he does look for the tight end, his inability to connect there?
No, I think it's as much about the skill level as well. I mean, I think Stafford, we were just talking off air about how good of an arm he has, right?
Yes.
His arm shows up a lot on the outside, the numbers types of throws when he had Calvin Johnson, when he has Kenny Golladay making plays outside. So he loves throwing the ball outside the numbers, but you've also seen inconsistency from a Brandon Pettigrew, from an Eric Ebron, from those guys that they tried to make the guy in the middle of the field. I do think Hockenson, compared to those other guys, will do a better job of stretching the seam. And Stafford can hit that cover two middle of the field shot as well as anybody. He hits the cover two hole shot. So he's got to use his arm to stretch the field in the middle now with Hockenson, who can stretch the seam a bit.
Head coach Matt Patricia came over from the New England Patriots. He was used to having to defend every day in practice against Rob Gronkowski. We're not going to say that Hockenson is Gronk, but they have to have visions dancing in their head that he can kind of yield maybe similar production for the quarterback and for that offense.
Well, it's a mismatch league, so that's how the Patriots used Gronkowski. Because he was such a good blocker, it dictates defensive personnel. You could get more linebacker matchups on him, find safety matchups, and Hockenson is a good enough run blocker. Again, comparing him to the previous tight ends, Ebron never really brought that to the table, right? So Hockenson can at least get maybe some linebacker favorable matchups, and then you get creative with him, line him up outside a little bit more, create those passing game mismatches because Hockenson is so good as a run blocker, and you have to respect that.
TJ Hockenson taken 8th overall in the NFL draft. Is that a little bit high for that position in today's NFL?
I think it's a little bit high. I mean, when you look at what else, because I always look at this, what else was on the board, right? And the Lions aren't just building an offense. They still have to build their defensive secondary. They have some other holes. I would have liked to see them maybe go a different way. But now they have to justify Hockenson as a top 10 pick. And if they're going to justify him, you got to get the most out of him lined up all over the place, in line, in the backfield, out wide, in the slot. So if they get creative with Hockenson and they make him a key piece, and now you have Marvin Jones on the outside and Kenny Golladay, Danny Amendola's in the slot now, that is how you win in the pass game in today's NFL. Multiple options, the ability to just create mismatches with different style players. Hockenson does add a different style player that Detroit did not have.
In today's NFL, you do need a productive tight end. One might argue you might need multiple tight ends in terms of the various packages you're going to use on offense. They need to get something done around this quarterback, Mathew Stafford, who I believe is good enough to win, but he certainly needs more help. All right, this is PFF TV. I'm Solomon Wilcots. He is Steve Palazzolo.